Um, so our next speaker, Arpit, is a very well-known figure in the world of open source. Arpit is the general manager of Linux Foundation, networking, IoT, and Edge. And I could give a very, very long intro because he has such a pedigree. But one thing that should be said about Arpit is that in getting communities together and being a thought leader, he's really one of the inspiring figures in this arena. So I'm very pleased to have him come and speak today. His topic today is going to be from Open RAN to open source RAN, something that I really like as a topic. Over to you, Arpit.
Cool. Good afternoon. So this is nap time after lunch. So I will try to be a little punchy and controversial, right? All right. Everybody should know what we do, but in case you don't, I'm just going to give you a quick overview of how we set things up to enable global collaboration. Obviously nonprofit, but we build ecosystems with our community. And we're sort of now set up quite differently. And we are way beyond Linux. It's not just Linux. We're set up either as a sub-foundation for addressing vertical industries. So on the top, energy, automobiles, etc. Or set up as a technology sub-foundation, security, blockchain, etc., etc. And these logos are just projects. One thing I want to emphasize is Linux Foundation only hosts projects that need a community. We will not take a GitHub project that a PhD student wrote with a community of one, okay? That's not the intent. The intent is if we need a community built around it that disrupts and changes the market, that's what we'll do. There's actually a good white paper written on software-defined vertical industries on why some of these 100-year-old industries have moved to open source. Good read, like telecommunications, automobile, finance, etc., etc. Okay? All right. So with that, I'm going to dive right into the topic of Open RAN and where we are. So this is kind of borrowed from the world of networking. And we moved to the RAN, which is today, or maybe a couple of years ago, it's all, whether it's implementation, whether it's labs, whether it's certification, commercial products. This is very important, right, on the path to commercialization, etc. The RAN was entirely a black box. And today we have moved from there to the middle part, where through the ORAN Alliance, we have the interfaces that are open. The implementation is becoming partially open. The labs are kind of fragmented. There's a bunch of OTICs popping around in US, flying drones all over the place with US government money, but, great. No commercialization yet because it's kind of challenging there. And we're not yet have the ability to influence 6G, right? So clearly work to be done there. And where we need to get to is the last column, where all the words are important, right? It's end-to-end, RAN to core, and commercial implementation, right? Commercial implementation is critical because if we just do research and if we just do POC, it does not move the needle for us, right? And people know why full open source RAN is important, like any other fundamental technology. It's security, it's speed of deployment, speed of innovation, and it's the cost, okay? And that's the journey that we need to get to. So let me show you how we are envisioning this and how we can actually collectively build this together. It's not just Linux Foundation. We cannot do it alone, okay? So today we have all of these SDOs, we have all of these communities, we have all of these open sources, and you've heard the panel do a very good job of how they're coming together. We have all these funds that are being thrown at a variety of labs and a variety of organizations trying to, show that it is open. And then, of course, academia, a lot of research. So there's some harmonization that's happening in the top three. Okay, standards, open source community, open source. So that's why the arrows at the top. There's definitely separate use cases that are being addressed by the bottom three, and we need to pull it all together. Okay, that's kind of the goal. So where are we today? Okay, the diagram is the most popular diagram on the ORAN Alliance page, right? And out of the 7 components of ORAN, only 4 are open source based, or at least there are options. That's the SMO, the infrastructure, the green part, and the cloud part at the bottom. Okay, and then of course the near-time RIC and XApps. CUDU, RU are not open source. And some of you may say, oh yeah, but SRS is open source, OAI is open source, and the answer is no. Okay. In a true Linux Foundation open source definition, OSI approved license open source, right? Yes, you can test and do POCs, but the moment you commercialize, it doesn't work. So we need to work on that. There are solutions, obviously, but the rest of them are fine. Okay, so how do we get to that part? And maybe some of it just remains proprietary, right? Because there's just too much either hardware-related efficiencies or too much licensing challenges or whatever, right? So what we are trying to do is we have accumulated a lot of these assets and forcing them to talk to each other, right? So I'm sure you folks know about early January, ONF, which is the home of SD-RAN, SD-Core, Aether project, as you may know it, that has moved over. The ORAN software community is obviously through the ORAN Alliance is hosted by us. We have LFN, which has been talked about quite a bit, Silva, Camara, et cetera, and then, as we work with the rest of the communities, we start expanding the collaboration. So one positive thing that happened this summer was we signed an MOU with OAI, and that was very well received by the industry. The community went in, integrated OAI as part of Nephew release, and things are moving in the right direction. So, yes?
What I was told about this, some criticism was that OAI was too far out in the galaxy.
Yes. I will find the space. You know what? I don't care about research. I'll move that over. How about that? Fair enough. All right, so with that said, let's get to the end state, right? So the end state, which again is going to be driven by none other than the US government. Like you can see the amount of funding they're putting in to drive the end state of commercialization. If you've not watched the videos from the One Summit Gov Day, there was a US Gov Day. I think we have posted all the videos. 5 agencies came, and basically in no hidden agenda, they just told us we need to be fully open and here's how you should do it. So take a look at that. Obviously they will back it up with funding and all that, but they are the fastest and the first driver of that. So, but one of the key caveats that they have requested us to do is make sure that it is a commercial solution, okay? Not just a POC. So that's the one on the top. Then, of course, the testing and then the open source code base at the bottom goes without saying, okay? So with that, we started discussing some of the intermediate blueprint work. So by the way, I know the blueprint term is used very vaguely. So LF Networking defined a term or coined a term called 5G Super Blueprint way back when. And it's an integration effort. It's a very process-driven requirements and implementation that the community does. And anybody can go in and say, I would like to have this kind of a blueprint. It needs to follow certain guidelines, it needs to be end-to-end, etc. So this was proposed, or this has been proposed and looked at in terms of how we bring these things together, okay? I'm not going to go through all of it, but for example, this might look like, the orchestration comes from Nefio and ONAP. The radios are still commercial radios, right? We've not yet talked to some of the open hardware here. But then you have the requirements from Anoket and Kubernetes at the bottom, and then the 2 cores that we can put in. Okay, so this is what is being done now. Keep in mind, if you have not already participated in the blueprint project, feel free to add yourself and join. These are, I think, weekly meetings. Just go to LF Networking Blueprint and then add yourself and join the TSCs. You will be able to contribute and learn what the other folks are doing, okay? So once you come up with this picture, and I'm borrowing this from Doug, he showed this to the board, and it's a fairly simple but powerful picture, right? Which is we need 3 loops, okay? We need a loop from research to code, and from code to commercialization. And then the third loop is standards to code, right? Which we're getting quite fast. So we need those 3 loops, and I think we're there to try and set that up properly, okay? So that's kind of a high-level picture of what we are trying to do, okay? So when it all comes together on the RAN side, this is what the end-to-end looks like, and it is now becoming even better. Right? These are, by the way, only sample projects. This used to be like 5, 6 projects 10 years ago, okay? But let me explain why this page is important. Let's start with the access, which is what majority of you focus on. There's the ORAN Alliance logo you see there, with the OSC and all the other things, right? That's your standard 3GPP access. But there's more to it than that. There's what is called LF connectivity, which is 6 gigahertz, fixed wireless access, et cetera, et cetera. There are about 5 projects there, including some very cool projects on digital twins. I don't know if you know the project Maverick. There's OpenAirInterface, 2 projects that are directly related to RAN. So definitely you need to take a look at it, but that's the connectivity, right? It's an alternative ways to get into the network. Below it, I'm not showing it here, but it's LF Broadband, which is the GPON project. So this is the one that came from ONF. It's now an independent project for GPON and XGS-PON. Deployed at Deutsche Telekom, Turk Telekom, etc. So that's the residential and the small medium business. Then there's about 15 or so projects on the edge side of things. Everything from infrastructure to application, everything from user edge to service provider edge, right? And this is important because in edge computing, the terminology is messed up. And so the LF edge as a sub-foundation has defined it quite well, right? Basically, people use, thin edge, thick edge, far edge, near edge, cloud edge. That's all relative. And so only 2 terms are used, user edge, service provider edge. User edge is controlled and operated by the user, and service provider edge is shared and as a service. And then there are 3 implementations of user edge. I'm not showing all of it here, but there's the constrained edge with microcontrollers, there's the device edge, and then there's inside the data center. Point being, a lot of these will interwork with the end-to-end solution when we get to the RAN part of it. And then the first stack that got completely open sourceified, if that's a word, is on the right-hand side, which is really the core, and that's under LF networking. Not all of the projects are under LF networking, but you have the NOSes, network operating system, that go on the switch, Sonic and Dent, each different use case. Then you have the data plane layers, DPDK, FDIO, eBPF, etc. OPI, the SmartNIC project, and then you get into the control plane, management, orchestration, and then all the way up the stack into applications. Okay, and what we are showing is there's an eBPF way of coming in through the project called Leaf, which Walmart runs all the way down, and then there is the telco way on non-eBPF, which is the packet core and others. That's a quick summary. I know all the projects don't fit here, but the blueprints pick and choose, and they define how they solve a particular use case. Okay? So that's the vision, right? Strong code base, broad community, commercial opportunities with a full, vibrant ecosystem. Okay? I'm not going to read through this, but I think you get the point, right? Just like Core and Edge have gone fully open source, RAN is next. Half of RAN is good in terms of open source, the other half is not, so we have to figure it out. And we are working with partners and communities to make that happen. Okay? That's all I had. I think I may give you back some time, but questions?
Thank you, Arpit. Any questions for Arpit?
Thank you. Thanks, Arpit, for that presentation. Thanks for the kind words for OpenAirInterface, and I agree with you on the overall goal that Linux Foundation networking and OpenAirInterface have to work closer together. But there's one statement you made that bothers me a bit. You said that the OpenAirInterface license, as it is today, is not fit for commercial deployments.
No, I said when Linux Foundation says licenses and open license, open source software, it has to be OSI approved.
Okay, that I understand.
Right?
Yes.
That's the thing. Of course, people can pay, people will deploy, and to get the commercial hockey stick, it has to be, at least from our perspective, OSI approved. That's all it is. Yeah.
Yeah, so that means we have to get the OSI to...
No, well, we'll figure it out.
We're talking about that.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
All right.
There is ways, so we'll figure it out. Yes. Yes. So, SMO, I think it was...
So basically, everything
that
other
one.
than CUD.
Everything other than CUD, are you? Yeah.
That's the half. Because I consider CUD.
I mean, I can divide 7 by 2, but so yeah, whatever.
Yes.
Other questions? So can we make this happen in the next year or so?
Absolutely. Let's get on with it.